You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That makes it official. When the fat lady sings, the opera lady sings, that makes it official right there. Welcome to Chris Voss Show. Remember, folks, the Chris Voss Show is the family that loves you but doesn't judge you, at least not as harshly as your mother-in-law, because she's never liked you anyway. You know how that goes. But anyway, guys, be sure to bask in the Chris Voss Show glow and share the Chris Voss Show glow with other people. We actually got some coffee cups we're designing, the Chris Voss Show glow, so you can drink the Chris Voss Show glow right out of the cup, the official cup of the Chris Voss Show. People like, I don't know, man. It's just a podcast, dude. Anyway, guys, for 15 years, we've been bringing the smartest people, the most brilliant minds, the CEOs, the billionaires, the Pulitzer Prize winners, all of the people who can uplift you, inspire you, take you to that next level in life. And that's what we do. And when you listen to the Chris Voss Show, you bask in the astronauts, the U.S. ambassadors, the Congress members, the governors. You join an elite crowd of people that just spend their day bathing in the Chris Voss Show glow. 3 to 4 shows a weekday, 15 to 20 shows a week. We run like a radio show because radio, I miss it. Does anyone else miss it? I don't know. This probably is a discussion for this time. We have an amazing gentleman on the show, and if he doesn't inspire you, you may want to get you may want to go see a doctor and get checked. 13 years ago, this gentleman had no money, no rental properties, $50K of student loans and debt. And guess what? His first boss out of college told him he was the worst employee in the company and should be fired. Wait, they tell me that every day. Today, he owns more than 200 rental properties without any investors or partners. He transformed his circumstances by adjusting his mindset, learning entrepreneurship, and side hustling intensely to buy a real estate while working a full-time job. You are going to learn a diamond's worth of information here. So please refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss. Subscribe to the big LinkedIn newsletter, the big 130,000 group on LinkedIn, Chris Voss 1 on TikTok, and chrisvossfacebook.com. Mathew Pezon joins us on the show. His wife, Anna, buy, renovate, and hold single-family and small multifamily properties for long-term in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania region. Lehigh Valley, actually. They have the Lehigh in Utah, but they spell it differently. They have 3 children under 3 years of age. That's always fun. Sleep's overrated. Mathew worked for 13 years as a chemical engineer before a recent career change to a full-time real estate investing. He is a 2013 Fulbright Scholar to Madrid, Spain, where he completed his master's in international management at IE Business. Well, since 2014, he and his wife have been buying and operating rental properties primarily in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Outside of investing, he enjoys maintaining his Spanish language skills, spending time with his family, playing guitar and violin, staying in shape, and traveling. Welcome to the show, Mathew. How are you?
Oh, Chris, thanks for having me. Thanks for the intro.
There you go. That's quite the bio, man. That's exciting as hell. Give us your .coms. Where do you want to have people look you up on the interweb, which is in the sky?
Yeah, sure. PezonProperties.com. That's our main home buying website, and all of our socials.
There you go. So to give us a 30,000 overview of what your day's like, what your business is like, and all that good stuff from your words.
Yeah, sure. So I transitioned to full-time real estate earlier this year, and day to day, I'm training my team. We have a team of 9 full-time employees, and then myself, and we're out there pounding the streets. We're buying houses, renovating houses, operating property.
There you go. Now you've made quite the journey. Tell us your hero's journey. How did you grow up? What made you take a shine to real estate? And of course, you're welcome to expand on this story of someone calling you the worst employee ever, because I think that's just funny as hell.
Yeah, so I'm a recovering engineer, and I say that. So I'm from the fourth generation of engineers, and I went to engineering school, chemical engineer, and that's what I wanted to do. Love that stuff. Love the analytical thinking, but when I got to that first big chemical company job, went into an IT role. My boss said I was terrible, that they shouldn't have hired me. I had no place there. It was awful. I mean, I was crushed. I had studied for 4 years. I had all this debt. How was I going to pay for this stuff? It was 2010. There's no job market then, not like today. And I just felt like my dreams were coming apart. Right? I felt like I was letting my family down, like I was letting myself down, and I just felt that I needed to do something else. I had nothing. I had no idea about investing. I had no concept of the future, building businesses, and that was a turning point for me.
There you go. And so you just wasn't your gig, even though you had like a generational sort of expectation probably to go, hey, you got to go be an engineer. Your dad did it and everybody else, huh?
Yeah, well, and no one said I had to, and they encouraged me to do whatever I wanted to do. It was more just, I wanted to do it, and I was good at the numbers, and so I chose to go into that field, and I'm thankful that I did. Learned a lot of good skills, but I wasn't a very good employee according to that first boss.
Well, I'm still not a good employee to this day. So, you got something going on. So, do you coach people now? I can see some stuff on your website that you've got going on. Do you coach people? Do you help people about mindset and wealth, or do you focus on just taking and buying houses and properties?
Mostly buying houses and properties. Some of the philanthropy that I do is related to helping folks from disadvantaged groups that historically wouldn't have been able to own real estate and invest. So trying to break down the wealth gap, wealth barriers, and break down that barrier to entry for communities that didn't have that access. So I volunteer. It's a huge passion project of mine, and I love doing that to, of course, provide housing, but teaching others to do it so they can better themselves in their communities. That's what really gets me going.
There you go. How does someone reset their mindset about wealth? How did they go from, talking about what were kind of, hey, go be an engineer, do the 9 to 5, do the paycheck to paycheck, and hopefully it all work out. You've got $50,000 in debt. How do you go from that to having a mindset about wealth and acquiring and building companies and what you're doing now?
Yeah, the answer is unfortunately at first pain. That was very painful for me. How am I going to afford this? What am I going to do? So it starts, oftentimes, it doesn't have to, but it starts from a place of challenge and how am I going to overcome this? Something bad happens to kick off that hero's journey. And then when you say, okay, I don't want to be in this place, or I never want to do that again, that's when the process starts. So for me, that, I told that story, but then it was, okay, what am I going to do? So in my case, I did my master's in management. Okay, I want to do business, get educated, and then apply those things. So it took probably 2 to 3 years of solid education before I really pulled the trigger.
And so so you kind of had to hit like I'm just sick of this, I'm not going to take it anymore, right? Moment.
Yes. Yeah. You hit that moment or go beyond it and you just say, I'm fed up.
You're just fed up. It's like that network movie. I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. Go to the window and scream. We were talking about this yesterday on the show with another author. And it seems like I remember when I finally lost weight and made some other changes, like I quit drinking booze. I just get tired of, I'm just like, I just wake up with hangovers and, I don't even drink that much anymore. At 50, your body just goes, yeah, we're not doing it. One beer and you got a hangover the next morning. And I just was like, I'm just not doing it. It was just not worth it anymore. Fuck it. Same thing when I lost weight. I just got tired of being miserable and tired of being miserable, whatever that means. And I just said, I'm just not going to do this anymore. I'm doing something different. And so I think maybe it's important. Do you think it's possible that it's important that we kind of identify that we're unhappy sooner so that we don't have to drag so long through that bottom?
Yeah, I think so. For me, it was just about realizing that I thought this is where I wanted to be, or even if you recognize that you don't want to be in a certain place, really accelerating that that pain and saying, you know what, I could see where this is going.
Mhm.
Bring it up a couple years and say, no, I'm not going to do this. You might be able to plug along for a little longer, but I saw, where my father and, my other, grandparents were where they were financially and things like that. Not that there's wrong with that outcome, but I saw the writing on the wall and I knew where it would lead me. So I said, look, fortunately I had that experience, but even if I didn't, bring up that change to the present, because you see where it's going.
Mm-hmm. Do you, I think too, was there anybody who inspired you or maybe motivated you when you hit that bottom, or did you find someone to help lead you out of it? Sometimes, when we hit that bottom, one of the key things we do is we find some sort of proponent, like a book or a leader or someone who inspires us, and we kind of that message resonates with us because we finally the bell's finally gone off in our head.
Yeah, I definitely found someone. So it was about a year and a half before I was kind of languishing a little bit, just not excelling at my job. But then when I found Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki,
there you go.
Oh man, it changed. I realized, wait, I'm not the only one who thinks this is all stupid. Right. so that was an eye opener for me. And of course, going to business school and things at the time, once I had the mentality and then I had the tools, that's when I could start making the change. It wasn't just the mentality, or wasn't having the tools and not even thinking to use them. I needed both.
Mm-hmm. So was there an inkling that you started to have after reading Rich Man, Poor Dad, or Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Rich Dad, yeah.
That you're like, I need to start my own company, or I need to do my own thing rather than rely on someone else.
Yeah, the seed was planted. I wasn't ready yet. I was still afraid because of those loans and, this other stuff. I mean, now it's, student loans are easier to repay, and that's its own thing. But, it took time, and I wasn't ready. I wanted to just get out of debt. And I realized that mentality was wrong after I got out of it, but it is what it is.
You probably were married and had a family too at the time, maybe.
So this was before I met my wife. We've been together 10 years, but it was about 2 years before that, 3 years before that. So
because sometimes it's hard to take a risk when you've got a wife and kids, because you're trying to provide stability for them and and all that stuff as a provider. So you how do you make your first deal? How do you get started down the pathway?
Yeah, so fortunately, I had my wife's girlfriend at the time, her support. She knew that I wanted to get into the business, just got back from business school. So I went around with investors who were doing this stuff. I asked questions. At the time, there were foreclosures, not anymore. And every Saturday, my friends were out. I lost some friendships because of it, because they were out late drinking, all this stuff. I was up at 6 a.m. going to meet these investors.
There you go.
And just different paths we were on. Got educated, met with these investors, learned about properties. How do I underwrite them? What do I want to buy? What needs to be repaired? And I saw probably 150 properties before I pulled the trigger. So, I just got ready and was scared out of my mind when I bought that first one.
There you go. You provide a great lesson. You put in the work. And a lot of people don't do that. They're like, oh, I'm drinking on Saturdays and I spend Sundays, with my head, hungover. I'm partying, chasing women, doing all that stuff. And I remember going, when I started my first company at 18, and our first successful multi-million-dollar company started at 22. And then I had 3 overnight within a year or two. And it was maddening. And I remember seeing all my friends partying, chasing girls, doing all the stuff, and me, we're trying to run 3 companies at the same time, and just consuming my life and everything that I was doing. I mean, it got to the point where I'm like, we need to install a shower at the office, because I don't even know why I bother going home with a shower and change clothes. But it was worth it in the long run, the sacrifice. And I've always had, I always used to have guy friends. They say to me, what's different about you, Chris? And I'm like, what? Because we would go clubbing, once we got successful, and they go, money's first for you and women are second. And I'd be like, well, yeah, I mean, I did watch Scarface, and first to get the money. But yeah, women cost money to date them. So I need the money first. But they're like, with us, it's about women first, money second. And I'm like, well, that's why you're broke, dude. And that's probably why you work for me. And you're always broke. And so you did the work. You went out and saw, like, what'd you say, 150 plus homes.
Yeah.
You're out, in the early morning hours, meeting with people, networking, doing the work, and, being accountable. And a lot of people just don't get that. That's what you got to do as an entrepreneur. You're like, hey, how come your little company didn't work out there that you started? And you're like, well, I don't know. I just tried and I set up a website and then nothing came. So I just gave up. And a lot of people don't realize you got to do the work, man. And sometimes you're going to, like you said, 150 houses, you're going to turn you got to turn over a lot of dirt to find the diamonds.
Well, that's right. And even today, when we know what we're doing, we're still making a lot of offers and not getting them accepted, or looking under the hood, figuring out we don't like it and terminating. I mean, it's just part of the business, but you got to have that relentless pursuit. Otherwise, you'll look at 2 deals, say they don't work, and stop, when all you had to do was look at 20 more. You would have done one.
Yeah. It's a numbers game. And people don't realize that life is a numbers game. Yeah. Dating's a numbers game. Business is a numbers game. Meeting right people and networking with them is a numbers game. Sometimes you'll meet someone and they're not a right fit for maybe your network, or they don't really help you, but sometimes you meet someone through them. And working those numbers games. Ted Turner had that great advice that was so brilliant, who built CNN and the cable company. And it was, you never lose anything by walking away from a deal, right?
Yep.
You can always come back if you want to come back to a deal, but if you say no to a deal, you don't lose anything. What you lose is if you're only looking at 2 properties at a time, you try to choose the lesser of 2 evils. And instead of going and finding, maybe flushing it out with the numbers to go look at 20 more deals, you might end up with 2 turds in your hand, right?
Yeah, well, that's right. And the opposite is true too. I mean, you can get just stuck looking at deals, never making offers. I see that happen to newer investors too. They never want to, they want to educate forever and never take action. So you have to there's a balance in the middle there. You can't just, you can't walk away from all the deals, and you can't not do the deals. You got to do some.
Yeah. And I mean, you've been working, I think you said you've been doing this for 13 years.
That's right. Yeah.
And you just retired to full time this year, correct?
That's right. Yeah. Yep. Earlier this year.
So you've been doing the full time work and then doing this on the side and building it. Has that been hard to try and do both and juggle them at the same time?
Oh yeah, it's no doubt. You work your 9 to 5, and then in the evenings and even during the day, weekends, you're doing the other thing. It's 2 full-time things. So, fortunately I have a spouse who understands that, and she was on board, but I mean, you're going to be ducking in conference rooms. I mean, I was doing that for years. Trying to make sure no one finds out, just buying properties and calling sellers over your lunch break, walking outside, making deals happen. I mean, it's hard, right? But it's harder to be that person who's told they're the worst employee in the company and you should be fired. That was harder to me.
Yeah. I mean, that'll definitely do it, because, it's definitely difficult to pull that one off. There you go.
Yeah. Yep. So
that's just crazy, man. And you went through all this stuff. You've learned the business. Now it looks like you buy homes in Pennsylvania. Is there a reason you stay in that area?
Yeah, that's actually where I'm from. So it's a great rental area, and it just turns out that's the business model worked with my location, but it's not necessary. I mean, you can buy. I mean, with the internet and you could find companies to do the work anywhere in the States. So it's it just happened to work out that way for me.
There you go. Yeah. And so what's the market looking like in real estate? Like, some people are like, oh God, it's over. It's interest rates are up. It doesn't seem like things are going the place they need to anymore. What is the market like nowadays, and what should people's attitudes and mindset be towards it?
Yeah, I mean, the attitude and mindset should be pretty local. Each area has its own dynamics. Where I am, we've benefited a lot from some of the urban flight from New York, Philadelphia, New Jersey, people seeking a more affordable way of life. So if you're in those areas and people are leaving, it's not good for them, but it's good for us. So, it's hard to generalize real estate. It's hyper local. But I mean, rates are up. It's true. So it's harder to get that financing and that those good loan products like 2 years ago. It was like a heyday, right? So you just want to do good deals right now. You want to make sure they cash flow. You want to be careful, but if there's an opportunity, like I don't care what the interest rate is. If the numbers work, you do the deal, right?
Really?
So, yeah. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like if it's, for years when I was getting started, I was paying 12, 14% to do a good deal. And that's when mortgage rates were 4%. So to me, it doesn't matter as long as the deal can support it and there's a big enough cushion there, do the deal.
There you go. So when you first bought your first few properties, how did you get them financed?
So I initially I was doing renovation projects in the beginning. So I was paying like a hard money lender, a bridge lender.
Oh, wow.
And so I was acquiring them that way and then refinancing them with like a traditional bank. So I was a lot of the times the properties on the market were either overpriced or priced around market. So I always wanted to get good deals, but then they had problems. So that I would use short-term lenders and then refinance.
There you go. And you just built it up. And now I imagine you do some different things when you go from house to house on deals.
Well, yeah, that's right. So I would it was one deal to the next. The goal was, okay, if a property is worth a certain amount, I would try to be all into that property for 20% less than that amount. Because I can get a loan for, 80% of what it's worth. So I wanted to get that 20% basically for free. Because I solved the problem. Well, it was sellers had problems with either they're behind on their taxes or mortgage, or a family member passed away, they inherited it, they didn't know what to do. I'd solve the problem and try to get a house for free, basically. and I mean, because that was my fee. I mean, some people couldn't repair the property. Some people couldn't sell because the resident wouldn't let anyone in, right? So there's always a problem. And so I would solve that problem. It was either a people problem or a property problem. And my fee was that equity. And
there you go.
Once I fixed it, I'd refinance and do it again.
I love that mindset of thinking from it that way and just being a problem solver. I mean, that's what most entrepreneurs are. They solve problems. They come up with a product or a service that usually solves their own problem they're having. And then they're like, hey, other people like this and how to build it out. What's the makeup of Pennsylvania? Is Pennsylvania changing demographically with people moving? Everyone's kind of moving from the outside in, I think, from the coastal cities inward.
Yeah, that's right. So depending on where you go, the kind of central and northern Pennsylvania is actually decreasing in population. But on the eastern part where we are, I mean, there's 100,000 people coming into the area in the next, 20, 30 years. I mean, it's going to increase. Yeah. It's, it's one of the top retirement areas, actually. You wouldn't think that, but a recent report came out on U.S. News and World Reports, and Pennsylvania, because of the low taxes, the affordability, the amenities, the healthcare, it is one of the top places to retire. So people are moving here in certain areas, and it's benefiting us locally, at least on the eastern half of the state.
There you go. And that John Fetterman senator you guys have is funny as hell. The way I like how he's just turned into he's just Zuckerman. He's just Jeff Zucker, the U.S. Senate with his dress code.
Yeah, I mean, look, shorts and a sweatshirt, it's not the Senate or anything, right? Who cares?
God bless him. I could be senator because I love shorts and black shirts and black shorts and
me too,
flip flops too. So I'm like, damn, he's broken the barrier where I too could be a senator someday and not have to wear a suit. So there you go. You talk about what are some top tips for hiring the right property manager, and why do you need to hire one? Why is that important?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I mean, I self-managed for about 4 years, and there comes a point where, look, you're working a full-time job, you're also
Hmm.
trying to buy their property, you want to have a life, you have relationships, family,
Hmm.
kids. You really don't want to be taking that no heat call at 9 p.m. on a Saturday. You know, you're watching a movie with your family. Trust me, I've been there. It's just the worst. And then you're,
No,
you're like you're trying to
no
call
heat call.
contractors, and it's just so just it's a barrier between real life and your life where you can
Ah.
hire a service to resolve things, and you can do what you need to do with your family and other things. And that's why I love property managers, and I only work with third party property managers because I didn't want the employee issues either. So
So you don't
at the
hire
time,
internally, I guess.
not
Now,
for that.
have you changed then? You said at the time, so.
Well, I'm not really looking to do my own management just yet. I might be forced to eventually, but my
Hmm.
property managers are performing.
Hmm.
I borrow a lot of money, but that doesn't mean I need to start a bank. I have a lot of insurance policies, but it doesn't mean I need to be an insurance carrier. So
Ah.
even though I could, it's at this stage, it's taking me away from the next deal
Hmm.
if I were to start up that company.
I like that concept because I'm the same way. I like the ability to fire you. Like people who are related to me will say, "Hey, can I come work for you?" I'm like, "No, I really like to fire people if they don't do their job." And I'll probably fire you. And it's not that I have a firing thing, but you know what I mean? It's if you've got someone who's a third party, it's much easier to cut them. And when they start fucking up, then with an employee, you got to give them 3 notices and you got to try and be nice to them. And hey, man, Joe, can you like get your shit together? And with the other guys, if they do a real faux pas, you can just be like, hey, man, the contract over. Bye. See ya.
Yeah, yeah.
It's easier to exit that situation basically, and you don't have any blowback of like lawsuits or people going, "You've misfired me wrong." And so, and the other thing is too, I found a long time ago was, I learned this from I think the guy CEO of Discover Card or something, and he said, never have one vendor who controls everything. Always have 2 or 3 vendors. In a given segment of whatever's being provided to your business, because if they know they have to compete and they're competing with other people, they'll do a much better job and they'll hustle harder, yeah, unless they know that they have all your business. And the problem with having everyone have all your business, a lot of the car companies have that issue right now. With like Tesla makes pretty much everything for their car, to my understanding. But one of the problems that GM and Ford and Chevy have in trying to make EV cars, electric vehicles, is they've sold all the parts to different branches. Some guy makes the radio, some company makes the radio, some company makes the thing. And so it's harder to get all the software to match up and hardware to match up where Tesla can, we built it, it's all integral. And so having multiple vendors and third party things, I think really makes all the difference.
Well, yeah, it does. I mean, and the finding the deal and buying the right deal, that can be very forgiving in the case of non-performance later. But I mean, you got to run that asset, right? You have to, you're providing an essential service to people. They live in your building. So you can't skimp on that management quality. And if you can, you won't be in the business long, or if you do, you won't be in the business long. So it is a core competency. I haven't really looked to do that vertical integration just yet with management. I've just been focused on building the deal arm right now, but maybe in the future I do. I mean, there's certainly, we've certainly achieved scale. So there's, it can be plug and play to a certain extent. And I think the managers know that like, okay, well, Matt has options. And even it's not that there's not just okay, well, he doesn't work. Cause I work with 2 main managers. They kind of know that, but they also know I could bring it in house too. So I'm kind of the third. I'm the bigger gorilla. I'm sitting over on the side, but they know I could pull it.
Yeah, there you go. And so now, what was your best advice for people that want to do what you do? I mean, you've really played the long ball here. I mean, you've been doing it for over a decade, but you still kept your day job. And the one thing about real estate is it's a really long, slow income ball where, I mean, you're playing for decades, but the value of real estate's always going to go up. And you're making that depreciation money and all that sort of stuff. What do you give advice for people who are finding off market deals, negotiating with sellers to buy them, and the vision for playing that long ball? Because you're not going to get rich overnight usually doing real estate.
Yeah, I mean, first you have to know why you want to do it, and you have to know what your investment strategy is. I loved single family homes, and I told you my why. But listeners need to know theirs, because it's going to get hard. You're going to have people, contractors run away with materials and money. You're going to have resident issues. You're going to have, slip and fall issues. There's all the issues, right? So you have to know why. And after that, when you know your investment strategy, you have to get educated. You have to build your credit. You have to save money. Mm-hmm. You have to be prudent with your budgeting, because you can't put down a chunk of change that you don't have. So you got to really, get those things right, get your credit right, and then you have to find your team, because once you buy this thing, now you're stuck with it. It's yours. It's your problem now. You can't. It's not a stock you just liquefy. I mean, it could take 3 months to find a buyer, right? More if you ever sell. So, then once you have your team, and you got everything else before that, you're educated, then you're looking at the property. People just want to go look at properties, and that's just not how it works. They skip 10 steps, and they didn't set up the foundation. You gotta. They're picking out the kitchen faucet before they even poured the concrete to the foundation. They're too far out in left field to even build a strong business.
I saw that a lot with some real estate friends right before the bust in Las Vegas from the 2008 Great Recession. I had a couple of friends that they'd spent like 25 grand going to all the Carlton Sheets seminars and all the seminars that teach you what you're supposed to do. And then they went out and they did every single thing that you're not supposed to do, that they spent $25,000 doing. They spent all that money just blowing it. And I remember saying to him, like, you have done everything that you're not supposed to do. Like, they bought homes that were $2,400 monthly payments on no down, those crazy negative AM loans from 2008. And I'm like, you bought homes that you have to make the service payment on $2,400 a month, but the rental market in Las Vegas max for a full family is $1,400, $1,600 on the luxury side at that time. And I'm like, so you're $1,000 upside down. Well, we just have to find the right renter. No, you don't. No one's going to rent that. It's stupid, because they can get 500 homes for less than that. And you're right. People go crazy. They get focused on getting down that road, and they don't, do the basics, as it were.
Oh, that is so true. I mean, all those mistakes, or they want to go out and look at properties, but they can't buy them because they're not bankable. And then they're just, instead of, they'll go down rabbit holes of getting educated, but meanwhile they're overspending and everything in their personal life, their credit's in the toilet. You have to go in order, because you can't skip steps in this business. You can, but you'll get burned.
Yeah. And maybe fix your personal debt first and stuff like that. Like pay off all your credit cards. It's funny how people look to investments where they're like, hey, I want to invest in, maybe real estate or stocks or something. And yet they're paying, these exorbitant credit card rates. Right now, I think the reports are in studies that we're on a credit card drug mission ever since COVID. It's like keeping the economy running. So I don't know, maybe it's half good, but people are just pouring credit card debt like it never before. I think it's a record we've never seen before. And it's like, those things will bleed you out first. That's actually the thing you should get rid of first.
Well, yeah, I mean, and if you're living your personal life outside of your own means, I mean, gosh, what are you going to do with your business? I mean, it's common sense, right? But people don't think, they're looking for the silver bullet. They're looking for the quick fix.
Get rich quick.
And this business is a slow. I forget who said this, but someone said real estate is slow and dumb. I mean, you can see the trend. You follow the people, you follow the jobs, follow the people. It's prices aren't going to shoot to the moon. Now, recently there was some appreciation, but I mean, it's like, look, it's just be methodical. You just do the math, and the math will tell you what to do.
Yeah. I mean, that's the beautiful part about real estate investing is it's not so much cyclical. It is kind of with interest rates, but there's not a huge amount of new property. There's a real inventory property problem we have in this country of not enough SFRs being built, single family residences. In fact, multifamilies are being thrown up like it's going out of style, which isn't going to fix the problem. I mean, we actually need some government hand down to say, hey, you get $30,000 off builders if you buy the SFRs. We need like a huge Levittown sort of rollout going on, but that doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon. So many cities have these laws and regulations where they're like, not in my backyard, and so they're kind of creating their own problems. But it's interesting. You can invest in Bitcoin or something that's crazy and extremely volatile. The great thing about housing is it's going to always be around. So as we go out, Mathew, give us your final thoughts and pitch out. How can people onboard with your site? What sort of clients are you looking for, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, sure. So we help anyone in Eastern Pennsylvania who's looking to sell their property, primary residence, rental, off market. No, we charge no fees, commissions, anything like that, and we buy direct from home sellers. So you can reach out to us on our website, and we'd love to work with you. There
you go. And give us the website as we go out.
Sure, PezonProperties.com.
There you go. Well, very insightful, my friend, to have done all this stuff. And I love the story, too. You're clearly not the worst employee ever, according to that guy from 10, 20 years ago.
He did me a favor.
Sometimes that's what we need. Sometimes we need somebody to kick us in the butt and kick us over the finish line, as it were. And then you're like, hey, thanks for that. I kind of needed that wake-up call, as we've talked about on the show. So thank you very much, Mathew. We really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, Chris, love being here. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And thanks, Mountains, for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss. Subscribe to the big LinkedIn newsletter. That thing is just killing it over there. It grows like a weed. The 130,000 LinkedIn group. Go to youtube.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTok, and Chris Voss, Facebook.com. You can chat with the show over there. Thanks for tuning in to my audience. Be good to each other. Stay safe, and we'll see you guys next time.